Oops, we had audio issues once again. Excuse me. So, welcome to my channel. It's me, Heidi, and now we are. Is there sound now so that I don't have to babble the same stuff all over again? Now it works. Thank you very much. Now it works. Thank you. I truly apologize for having technical trouble to begin with. Anyway, welcome to my channel once again. Today we will be talking about a piece of legislation that is now has been in a part of huge debates in Alabama, United States of America, with regards to medical treatments for transitioning for minors, which would entail, in this case, that it would be a criminal offense for a doctor or other healthcare staff to give gender-affirming treatments to minors. Healthcare staff would face up to 10 years in prison for providing these treatments. And as I understand it, there are two pieces of legislation that would be a part of this whole law package. Those would be HB1 and SB10 that had been dubbed as Vulnerable Child Compassion and Protection Act. There's a separate bill by which the legislators are trying to make it illegal for trans kids to take part in school sports. From what I gather, this ban of trans kids taking part in school sports would only include trans girls / trans women, trans feminines. So that is, as I understand it, if that is the case, it would be even more big. There would be even more bigotry. Huge bigotry. And this whole information came to my attention from LGBTQ Nation, where they wrote, there's an article published on Monday, March 8th by Alex Bollinger. I'll just pull it up. And they wrote this after Elliot Page came forward marching in. Do you need to? I think I'll just zoom in a bit so you can see. So as I mentioned here, it can be this kind of treatment or legislation would indeed be deadly, really deadly. Oops, sorry. Yes, here you can see sorry about this, it didn't finish, but you can see Elliot Page tweeted this on the March 5th. Now, I'll be right back with my lovely guest. Talk to you shortly. everyone. We have a guest here. My lovely guest, Vishanti. Welcome. Would you mind introducing yourself for my
Yes.
viewers?
Hello, everybody. My name's Vishanti. I'm usually on a couple of channels. One of them is more focused on parody. Um, we talk about all sorts of woo peddlers and conspiracy theorists, and we kind of debunk them with humor. That's NASA Bunker 33. And then I'm on a slightly more serious channel that also does parody debunks, but also does really good history stuff as well. That would be the I Network. So if you are interested in hearing me ramble about either of those things, you are welcome to go there. I also have a D&D game that I play once every 2 weeks with some people in the science community. So if you're a nerd, you're more than welcome to tune into that as well.
All right, very well, very well. So there will be links down in the description box below to these YouTube shizzles. Now back to this. I already started with this article. So, which from LGBTQ Nation, which came out, as I said, March 8th, Monday, which would be 2 weeks ago. So basically, these bills, HB1 and SB10 in Alabama. Could you give a bit more context on this quote unquote Vulnerable Child Compassion and Protection Act?
So a little bit about me, which I probably should have gone more in depth into for the actual intro. I was born and raised in Alabama. I thankfully got the hell out of that state in 2015, and I've been living in sunny Southern California since. So I'm all too familiar with the mindset that goes into these sorts of pieces of legislation. And they obviously have named it something that makes them sound like they're protecting these poor vulnerable children from the
Yeah.
scary, that is not the case. There is no medical science that supports their claim. There is no consensus in the mental health community that backs up their claim. It's all fear mongering, and it's based in ignorance and fear, and it's honestly, it's not just destructive to transgender youths, it's also potentially damaging to people who have to prescribe treatments because it makes it a felony to give gender affirming hormone treatment to any of these minors. So,
Yeah, and as Elliot Page tweeted on March 5th, saying efforts to criminalize trans kids getting treated are deadly. Yes, if this bill goes through and becomes law, it will be deadly. This kind of mindset, I would assume, has already, even though it hasn't been legal as such, but this kind of practice and mindset, it has already been taking a death toll over the years. I would
mhm.
assume so.
Yeah, so more or less, there is a, excuse me, there is a culture in that state that is very tied to fundamentalist Protestant Christianity. And because of that, there are a lot of regressive ideas that aren't really compatible with where society is right now. And a lot of those have to do with women's issues, with gender rights, with the LGBTQ rights as a whole, with voting, with people of color. There's so many issues that they're just way behind the curve on. And as a
Yeah,
state.
yeah, which I would assume that this is could be some sort of a bigger thing, bigger, more broader issue in all the southern states and the Bible Belt.
Hmm.
in America.
Yeah, and there are very big pockets of progressive people in the state, but they're centered around the larger cities, which is pretty typical of, large cities in general. They tend to be more diverse and progressive. So, Alabama has a lot of rural, just land that people live on, and they're not in the big cities like Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, or Huntsville, which is where the NASA Space Center is. So they don't necessarily interact with someone from the LGBTQ community on a regular basis. And you don't get to know them as people. They're just an idea, you know, and you don't understand them. So it's a scary idea.
Mm.
And you read some of the quotes from the lawmaker that really is spearheading this bill. He he reads the Mayo Clinic's definition of gender dysphoria. The Mayo Clinic
Okay.
is populated by actual board certified physicians and researchers. He reads it, and the Mayo Clinic defines what dysphoria is, and it's very succinct. And then he goes on to say, well, my definition is that someone who thinks they should be a girl if they're a boy, and thinks they should be a boy if they're a girl. He has no medical training. I looked him up. He has a bachelor's degree in business finance. He has a master's
Business
degree in
fucking
math.
finance. Okay.
Yeah. His master's degree is
Okay.
in mathematics. He has no medical training. He has no qualification to be making the kind of statement that redefines the Mayo Clinic's definition there.
Yeah. Apparently, this guy is apparently trying to redefine what gender is and
Mm.
what it's all about. Is because, um, for example, an example from a completely different field, BMI was developed by a Belgian mathematician with no medical training, and now we have
Exactly.
come to understand that it has no bearing in reality or in any sort of um, actual science.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the so it's once again one of these, another mathematician trying to come up with some sort of fabulous bullshit and rewrite all medical knowledge on
Yeah.
this issue.
He goes on to say, quote, science shows that children that are going through this gender dysphoria, most of them mature or grow out of this stage if they are given the chance. End quote. He doesn't he doesn't name his source, obviously, because he
Oh,
can't, because there
of
isn't
course.
one. And when he makes the claim that most children who experience gender dysphoria grow out of it, what he's
Yes.
actually saying there is that these children aren't given the support and the treatment that they need, so they either suppress it or it's suppressed for them.
Yeah, and in this LGBTQ Nation article, quotes the uh, says as follows: text of the bill claims that most minors diagnosed with gender dysphoria will stop being transgender by the time they are adults, which is false. Correct? It's false. It's bullshit. It's just some weird woo peddling. And it goes on to say that the bill says that it's necessary to support quote unquote natural puberty, even even though the effects of puberty hormones on a transgender person's body can lead to increased dysphoria for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
He, this lawmaker, I guess I should name him. His name is Shay Shelnut.
Okay.
That's a mouthful. He says, quote, so why is this bill needed? It's just to stop these surgeries and these drugs on our children. It's to protect our children. That's my simple explanation. End quote. when someone asked him about surgeries on minors,
Yeah.
which, by the way, are not done.
Nope.
Surgeries on minors are not done. When he was asked about it, he said, well, I don't know of any. I'm just trying to stop it from happening. So he's not
Yeah.
fighting an actual thing. It's an idea that he's made up in his mind. Well, someone might get it, so let's ban it. Ugh.
Yeah. It's like trying to ban something that doesn't exist. It's like as if to prevent this imaginary thing. Okay, there have been cases globally. Only one I can think of that was publicized of a minor having had gender reassignment surgery at the age of 16. This German girl, Kim Petras. It was years ago, maybe 10 years ago or something like that. But it just doesn't have. It's not the medical consensus that something like this would even. The point is the point what they are really trying to push here, the pro treatment people, is that puberty blockers. No, it's not that they're trying to actively trying to get all the trans kids to have surgery.
Yeah. And with this particular bill, it isn't saying it directly, but it goes right back to the idea that they don't consider your biological sex and your gender two different things. They don't
Yeah,
understand that they can be two completely different things. And just because you came out of the womb and someone said you're a boy or you're a girl does not mean that's what you identify as.
yes, it's just the best guess because there is you don't even have to be trans. You can be intersex,
Mm-hmm.
and you're assigned either or. And when you're supposed to get start your puberty, either binary, you're then whoopsie. What do
Yeah,
we do now?
exactly.
And here in this LGBTQ Nation article, it says puberty blockers, like their name suggests, actually delay the onset of puberty, so that transgender youth, their parents, and their doctors can have time to understand their identities and come up with the best path forward. Exactly. They're just buying time.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't just immediately puberty blockers and surgery right away. No, they're just buying time to figure it out.
Yeah, and one of the most awful things that this lawmaker said, he said that he wants children with dysphoria to get help, but he doesn't want them to be counseled in a way that affirms their gender identity conflict. So, like, you can get help, just not for what you think you are. It has to be
Yeah,
what
not the
he
way they
thinks.
think. Yeah.
He said, there's no medical diagnosis, there's no medical condition these kids have, it's just in their mind. Well, Shay, did you realize that your mind is part of your physical body?
Yeah,
Issues
it's
of
in
the
your
mind
brain.
are medical conditions, you twat.
It's in your brain, bro. Uh,
Is he going to
yeah,
say that bipolar disorders, which are in your mind, are
yeah, it's
not
brain
medical
chemistry.
conditions? Yeah.
It's brain chemistry, and it can be fixed up until, or at least can be managed.
Yeah,
Those
but it's like
that
your
get chemical
gender
imbalance.
identity, it's not some fake thing that you're just coming up with in your mind. Nobody wants to feel dysphoria,
No.
you know? I don't know. I don't care, but I don't know why he thinks people are just getting these ideas that suddenly they're in the wrong body. That's
Uh,
not coming up out of nowhere, you know?
and how is it from the previous paragraph? The bill's text say that treatments like puberty blockers, even after years of testing and administered by doctors, somehow, quote unquote, they constitute dangerous and uncontrolled human medical experimentation that may result in grave and irreversible consequences to their physical and mental health. Well,
Huh.
what do we have here? What does he think that going through the the grueling ordeal of the wrong puberty and living with the permanent physical changes for the rest of your fucking life? How does that that not result grave and irreversible consequences to their physical and mental health? How does that not do it?
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, well, you know, scientists doing their job, it's dangerous and it's untested.
Mm-hmm.
That this is what these people do for a living. You have to go to how many years of medical school before you can practice medicine? And
Depends on
he's
the
kind of a
country.
business major that knows some math, and he's qualified to say that it's dangerous. He's qualified to speculate on, oh, it could be damaging in the long term. Who is he
Yeah,
to say that?
where I live, uh, I live in Finland, and the medical school is 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
6 years, high school, 6 years of medical school, and that gives you the MD. You're qualified to do work as a general practitioner, and then you have an additional 10 years to get special your specialist qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
So that here in Finland, this stuff is um, the period of the transition is done at a university hospital clinic. These people are psychiatrists, so they've gone to school. They've been in the medical field for at least for a good 10 to 15 years. So they and then this is a postgraduate degree, and then this and these people actually know what the hell they're doing. But the this Wupedler then goes on to with a bachelor's degree in math goes on to say shit like this.
Yeah.
So is it just the religion?
It's not just religion. It's never just religion. People often use it as a justification for the opinions that they already have, which might sound like I'm defending them. I'm not.
Yeah, I get
it's
that. Yeah.
it's a case of people not understanding what transgender experiences are, not knowing any people who are transgendered. So it's an idea to them. It's just a concept. And it's a concept that they're not familiar with, they're uncomfortable with, so they don't like it. And
Yeah.
before I had
Um,
transgender friends, I felt like very similar. I didn't understand, why would somebody say that they're a boy, but I've known you your whole life and you're a girl. Like, how can you say? That's before I knew any people that were close to me that were transgender. And I went, oh, they're just normal people.
yeah,
This doesn't
exactly.
affect me in
Yeah,
any way.
yeah. It's curious as to how how this goes. It's really. I heard a quote. People often fear what they don't understand,
Hmm.
and I think
Hmm.
this quote this applies quite well in this. Don't you think?
Very much. Very, very much. People fear
And
it. They don't understand what it is, where it comes from, why anyone would, in their mind, choose to be that way. Um, they don't realize that you don't have control over how you feel. You know, you can't
yeah,
just use logic to get rid of your emotions as much as I wish I could. um, it doesn't work that way. Um, the way that you perceive yourself, that's not something that other people can force on you. The way that you look
Uh,
at yourself in the mirror, the way that you feel inside of your own body, that can't be dictated to you.
yeah, and it's mind baffling that I there was a video, I can't remember where I found it, but there was a dad of a trans girl, and he this man uh, I said that he is a Methodist pastor, and his entire family, their extended family, are Methodist. Uh, he said something along the lines of that just he forced his kid to 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 wear boy clothes, have short boy hair, play with boy toys and such, and he saw, because this boy was assigned male at birth, but this child just didn't smile. The
Mm-hmm.
child was unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
but he came once he saw his child wear uh, girl clothes. Once he allowed it, just this once, he changed his entire way of thinking
Mm-hmm.
when he saw that his child was actually happy and smiled for the very first time
Yeah.
in her life when he saw
You
his child
imagine
smile.
knowing that you're making your child miserable. Can you imagine that feeling? You know, that guilt that he must have felt, and then realizing when he sees a genuine smile on his child's face for the first time. And he gets it. He realizes this is who they are. It's what makes them happy. It's how they're fulfilled. And it's heartwarming, but it's also sad because
Yeah, it
you
is
shouldn't
sad.
have to have it happen to you directly in order to have empathy.
It, yeah, but yeah, this dad was testifying in the Alabama Senate. He
Mhm.
said his family doesn't know he is there. He told no one. He his family thought he was at work. This is what he had to do in order to go to the Senate to testify in front of the Senate of
Yeah.
Alabama to get right to his child.
Yeah, and at no point was he saying, "Oh, I'm going to rush my child into surgery."
No,
Because
he just
again,
wanted to have his
surgeries aren't done on minors.
nope.
And I actually found an article from a pediatrician who
Okay.
wrote into one of the Alabamian newspapers and was discussing how he took an oath to do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
And he discusses how this law is going to do harm. It won't just do harm to people who are transgender or who are experiencing dysphoria, but it's also going to harm medical professionals because they won't be able to prescribe treatments that help their patients.
They're just gonna yeah they will only do harm,
Mhm.
which they
Well,
promised to
another thing is
avoid.
that he goes into it's really it's really unfortunate that the healthcare disparity is large. And there's also a huge lack of doctors that will affirm your gender because
Mm-hmm.
their implicit bias is, well, this isn't a thing, or it's a phase, or you'll grow out of it, or eh. So they're
And
not going to
yada
listen
yada
to
yeah.
you, when you're telling them about your issue. Uh, and here's what broke my heart:
Mm-hmm.
LGBT youth make up 40% of homeless youth in the United States. And they usually become homeless as a result of being rejected, abused, or mistreated by their families.
Yeah, or all of the above.
Mm-hmm. So it's not just causing someone emotional distress, it can literally endanger you physically because you don't feel safe at home. You can't live at home. If you're rejected by the people who are sheltering you, where are you supposed to go?
which is quite horrendous. They
Hmm.
these people cannot see uh, the thing in the way that this Methodist pastor actually saw the thing. He saw his child be miserable, and he
Hmm.
didn't understand why. But when he saw his child for the happy for the first time, wearing the clothes of the opposite gender, then he understood what is he before he said he couldn't understand what it's all about. And I
Hmm.
think this applies to many of these religious transphobes or
Yeah.
transphobes in general, whether they be religious or atheist.
Hmm. This the pediatrician does go on to say that the bill implies that dysphoria is just in your head. It's only psychiatric or it's only psychological. But the American Psychiatric Association and the American Psychological Association have evidence based data and positions stating homosexuality is not psychiatric or psychological disorder, bisexuality is not psychiatric or psychological disorder, and gender dysphoria is not psychiatric or psychological disorder. So you've got evidence based data. You've got hard science that they've studied to show you that these are not just, oh, well, we'll just give you a drug and it goes away. We'll
Yeah,
just talk you through or get you to journal and it goes away. That's not what this is.
as if that has helped in past decades. No,
Right. I mean, we still have the gay conversion camps and the, you know, what they
living
talk.
waters.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also so many other, camps and programs for people that try to, counsel you out of being gay
But no,
when it causes harm.
these no matter what these gender non-conforming children or the kids with gender dysphoria just time one at a time tend to grow up and have gender dysphoria when they are adults, time and time again. I I had gender dysphoria. I'm trans. I had gender dysphoria since elementary school, the age of 10 or 11 or so, 10, 11 or so, and I'm 34, and now I've transitioned from male to female, and yeah, I'm still trans. Been like that for 20 something years now.
Well, but you see, a guy with a business degree said it's just a phase.
I guess
How
I'm
long will
still.
this phase last?
I guess it's a psychotic episode still going on or something. I don't
Don't
know.
give him ideas. Um, Another thing is I've noticed a pattern
Mhm.
in gender nonconforming children or children that are starting to come into their identity as a homosexual maybe or someone who might be bisexual or pan is that
Mhm.
their parents seem to take it as a sort of personal slight or insult that, oh, what's wrong with me in the way that I raised my child that they would come out this way. It's not about you.
No, it's not the parent. It's a child. But I it what it could be is that these parents think that they did something
Hmm.
wrong in raising their child to for the child growing up this becoming this way. But I think it's the same kind of logic that we had in mid 20th century, that about these refrigerator mothers causing their kids to be autistic.
Hmm.
Uh, I know I have an autistic person in my extended family, and from their mom and this person's grandmother, I did, and this person's uncle, I did hear the term refrigerator mother, that it was sort of this mother's uh, sort of fault that they somehow that this mom was cold and frigid, hence the kid became autistic.
That's one of the issues that I've been thinking a lot about lately is because I have a very good friend who has an autistic son in his teens, and he's an amazing kid, and she's done an amazing job parenting him, and she doesn't have the same hangups that a lot of these people do, where they are like, "Oh, my child is autistic," and then they have this psychological breakdown that something is wrong with them. Like, you didn't choose your genetics and you didn't choose your child's genetics. It's not a personal slight that biology happened.
Yeah, and this autism thing brings me to an interesting result that has been scientists have been and doctors have been getting from research, is that autistic and people and those on the autism spectrum are 3 to 6 times more likely to have gender dysphoria.
Wow.
It's really fascinating, the fact that it's. I looked up. I had a stream. I streamed about this. I think it was last Friday, as for my Friday Facts episode. Um, that just about this, that autism spectrum kids and people and adults are 3 to 6 times more likely to have to have gender dysphoria, and this is kind of. I could see the sort of fear in the parents or the family, or in that already have this kind of shitty mentality that it's just a phase and such, and they shouldn't get any gender reaffirming treatment.
Yeah.
And plus, if their kid is on the spectrum, I I can only imagine how much there how many families like that are out there,
Yeah.
and
And
that would greatly suffer from even more than non-autistic kids, and so it's just horrendous.
it's also it's pretty telling that when someone has a child and they learn that they're autistic, they get so offended that their child isn't quote normal. Like, how dare they not be like everyone else? When you sign up to be a parent, when you choose to have a child, you don't sign up and go, well, only if they meet all my standards. You take your
Yeah,
child, that's your child. And sometimes biology spins the wheel and you don't get your perfect little genetic child.
exactly.
So that's the way biology works. It's not a conscious process. And we act like it's such a personal issue that there must be something wrong with me or my child. And look, it's not easy raising a child. It's not. It's extremely hard. It's challenging. It's draining. It can also be fulfilling. But you have
Yeah,
to
indeed.
take the good with the bad. That's part of it. And just because something happens that you don't like, you need to have the coping mechanisms to deal with it. And I feel like a lot of adults don't have coping mechanisms for when stuff happens in the world that they don't like.
Yes, and I brought up the just what I think I'll just once more bring up the article from here. Is they mention once one paragraph says as follows: one study found that transgender teens who wanted puberty blockers and were able to get them had a significantly reduced risk of suicidal thoughts for the rest of their lives compared to trans teens who wanted them but didn't get them. Another study found that the treatment improves transgender youth's lives and that almost all trans youth grew up to be transgender adults. No surprise there, really. I mean,
It's no surprise to us who have actual knowledge of what science says.
yeah, and those who actually know what the hell they're actually reading when they read a scientific paper.
Exactly. But I don't trust that Shay Shelnut, with his business degree, can read the first thing in a scientific research paper and actually understand what it's getting at. I feel
I
like he would have trouble with the abstract, but that's
I
just me.
bet these people have never actually even read a scientific paper,
You're probably right.
and they might not even know who, for example, David Attenborough was,
they
or Einstein or Hawking.
I feel like they have an idea that they know it's an important person and they have a kind of general idea of what they've contributed, but couldn't tell you specifics. Like
Yeah,
if you bring up Einstein, they'll go, "Oh, E equals MC squared."
but then
Yeah,
they can't tell you what it means.
I can't tell you what it means.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and that's I
that's the
wanted.
problem. I think that is the one of the very roots or the rudimentary problems that is beneath all this. They are scientifically illiterate. Those because those woo peddlers who try to push this legislation think they know what the hell they're doing, but
Mhm.
they do not because they are such they are so scientifically illiterate. They
Yeah, and
know this guy knows his way around mathematics stuff, but he doesn't know any, doesn't seem to know anything beyond his degree or the field of his degree.
I I want to dunk on this guy. He went to I think he went to Pinson Valley High School. I know where that is because I've taught there before. Um,
Uh-huh.
the good kids, great, little neighborhood. It's out in the country a little bit. It's fairly rural. So you have a lot of people with small town mindsets. They're generally friendly, they cook really delicious food. But even when you teach them something in school, there is a very strong resistance to things that go against an evangelical or fundamentalist viewpoint. So you can learn about Darwinism or any kind of evolutionary geology in your class, but then you go home and your parents go, "Oh, that's not true. We believe that this other thing happened." So the
Yeah.
kid, what do? They either think, "Well, science is evil and secular and they're lying to me," or they go, "Well, my parents don't know how science works." And then their parents get upset because you've gone secular and you're listening to the evil scientists who are contradicting our religion.
Yeah, these people just or or they might have some basic degree on some field of science, and they think they actually know what they are talking about. But then there are certain uh, people who claim they have um, a degree on some field, and then they don't, and they try to do get some kind of legislation like this.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Mr. 064507, excuse me, 06452017.
The
His inmate number.
The there's something also very specific to especially deep south
Yeah.
politics, and it's inextricably tied to evangelical and fundamentalist thinking. I've literally heard it said from a pulpit, well, you know, those scientists and those teachers have your kids 5 days a week, and we've only got them in church 1 day a week. How are we supposed to combat that secular thinking? It's it's literally a cult mindset. They
Yeah.
literally say you're going out into the world where it's dangerous, and they have all these ideas that are not according to our religion, and then you have to come back here where it's safe, where it's
Yeah.
right, you know.
Yeah. They try to get this mindset of fear
Mhm.
instilled into these kids, and
Mhm.
then when you get that for a few generations, you get these guys who have a bachelor degree in math or no degree at all or have a legal degree, and they've had this indoctrination from this cult like
Mhm.
indoctrination from their grandparents, possibly great grandparents if they've been around, grandparents and parents, and then extended family who are most likely to have been in the same church or
Yeah, and
same kind of mindset,
it's
and then we
not
get legislation like this.
it's not surprising to me that children are struggling with dysphoria because they're constantly hearing two opposite messages. Your parents tell you to do well in school. They want you to succeed. But then the only way for you to do well in school is to do good work on your tests. How do you do good work for your tests? You learn the material, and if the material is telling you something that your parents say is fake, what are you supposed to do?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just mind baffling, really. And but I I'm really I can't really believe it that it really takes has to go this far
I think
to get actual basic human rights that we as in a group of people of being pro trans, pro
mhm.
LGBTQ plus have to go on the barricades to get our
Yeah.
basic rights in
Well,
to preserve our rights.
they also, like you said, the fear thing. It's, well, if these kids are trans, what if my kids become trans too? And they have this fear that it's going to
As if it's
spread.
contagious.
And then, right, like it's contagious. And, oh no, what if it spreads? It, really? That's just stupid fear mongering. That's ignorant. It demands compassion where you don't want to have any. They're not harming anyone.
No, and yeah, exactly. We aren't harming anyone, and I was watching a documentary of a certain Finnish American criminal a few years back, and as she was about to get executed, and her friend went to see her just for the last time, and her friend said that when we were young there were no gay people.
What?
Yes,
Okay.
there were
Okay.
no gay people when we were young. There were no gay people, and now they're everywhere.
Wow. Okay, so I guess we didn't invent gay people till what, the 70s?
And yeah,
Kidding?
and this said criminal had been in a relationship with another woman back in
Oh
the
my.
day, and that's why her friend or quote unquote friend said that that there were no gays back then, but now she's
Oh
gay
my.
and everyone's gay.
I I want to get mad, but I have to laugh because do you even know the Greeks?
Yeah, yes,
I mean, they drew art, they carved statues. They all of Pompeii. When we started to uncover the ashes at Pompeii, we found porn all over the walls in the mosaics. And
Yeah,
we're
and
acting
in particular gay porn.
exactly. But no, we didn't invent gays till the 70s, so maybe the
Yeah,
60s at the
yeah, that
earliest.
was the gays were hiding somewhere for
Yeah.
2,500 years or something.
Maybe there really is a hollow earth and they just kind of came up to the surface.
Oh, oh dear, no dear.
Oh.
But to
But that's
go,
another thing is when you say, "Oh, this used to not be a thing and now it's everywhere." Maybe it's just that you were being such a jerk, they didn't feel comfortable being out around you.
yeah, and you didn't see trans people quite all that much in the media like 100 years
Mhm.
ago.
There,
But
you imagine 20 years ago having trans actors in the spotlight like they are now. That
yeah,
just wasn't done. It's not.
no,
Even some of the most famous actors in the Hollywood, golden age are known to be gay and had to cover it up and get married and all these
yeah,
other things. Even when people knew, they had to pretend.
no. And now we've got what's her name? Laverne Cox, I think
Mhm.
is her name, and then Elliot Page. We
Mhm.
have a to name a few.
Yeah.
And you know, when people say they weren't there weren't any gay people when we were young, you know what? Yes, there were gay people, but you know what? They were hiding because of bigoted shits like you.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's
Yeah,
safer to be out now than it was. It's still not 100% safe.
no,
That's the goal. We have to get there. But it's more accepted now in a large sense than it used to be. And
yeah,
that's why you're like, oh, they're everywhere. No, they're just comfortable being out about it.
yeah. And what I wanted to touch on as well is something that was linked next to or under the um, article which we just went through. This is from a national level from the United States. There have been 31 anti transgender bills filed in 20 states as GOP targets school children nationwide. What the fuck is wrong with you? Not
So
school
many
children.
things. So many
Come to me,
things.
you bitches. Not children.
Right. Right. I will protect you,
So,
children. I will protect you.
but
That was another
ha-
thing that pediatrician had written to the newspaper about is he was saying, hey, if Alabama does this, how many other states are going to pass laws like this? And they're right. It takes one group to start something. And whether it's good or whether it's harmful, everyone else, well, they did it. Well, they did it. Well, they did it. It doesn't make it right.
mhm,
And I agree that this is most likely going to be challenged at the Supreme Court level because Alabama's tried to ban abortion before. I think 2 years ago, actually, they passed a law that would, basically criminalize it just for everybody all the time.
mhm.
And the Supreme Court was like, nope, and slapped it down. So I'm not so sure about this particular Supreme Court because it has been stuffed to the gills with right leaning judges who are very not pro abortion rights. So I have no idea what would happen if that came up again. I don't know if they do end up challenging it at the higher level, which they will probably. I don't know if this court would strike it down or if they would do their damn job and preserve the law.
Yeah, and why when stuff like this comes up in the US, when stuff like this comes up, why is it always the Republicans, not the
Mm,
Democrats, but always the Republicans? Why?
weird, isn't it?
Is it
Right
because
wingers,
is
man.
it is it because the Republicans are further right and
Very
further
much.
right wing and further religious, or is
Very
it just a
much so.
thing?
The Republicans are the far right party. Um, I'm a socialist, so I don't really care for the Democrats. To me, they're a lesser evil, but they're still not great. They're more right-leaning centrist, I guess, on an absolute scale.
Yeah,
But you're
On
right;
the
they don't.
European scale,
Yeah,
Democrats are right wing, like quote
yeah, they're
unquote
center right at best.
right wing centrists.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah.
um, but you're right; they don't push these kinds of laws. They at least have enough sense to know that the base that elected them doesn't want this. So I guess they've got that going for them. But
Yeah.
it's the Republicans because they don't like the status quo changing and they don't like being the ones who decide what the status quo is. That's why they're going after school children because those are, in their mind, the easiest people to control.
Mm. Yeah. Why go for the adults? Why when I can rather go to the children
Hmm.
and then do go and stop woo peddling all this kind of
Right.
anti-trans legislation and bullshit and misinformation. Why 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 do it to adults who have a mind who can think critically?
That's
Usually
why.
adults can't think critically. So why not? So go why go to people who can think for themselves? And so why not go to children who typically cannot yet?
Yeah, and even when they do make their own decisions, that's not legally a right that they're given. You know, you have to literally more or less sue your parents in order to not be legally controlled by them.
Yeah.
And that is not often granted. So, if there's that mindset that you can't control children because they're vulnerable,
Mm,
they
yeah.
don't have the resources to fight the kind of oppression that would be put on them like adults do. Where are kids going to get the money to go to court? You know, they're going to
No.
need advocates. So,
Yeah. It's gonna. It's I truly hope that this Alabama law and these 30 something bills will not go through in these 20 states.
mhm.
Uh, I, I, I just can't understand how the in the fudge monkey brain this is even possible in 2021, but obviously it is. But I
Well,
just truly hope those, or at least as few as possible, will eventually go through.
yeah, and America's done a very good job in selling its own propaganda.
Hmm.
It not just to ourselves, but to the world. We try to make it look like we've got our stuff together and we're so great and look at us, but we're really broken. And we don't
Yeah.
like that that's becoming more apparent how broken we really are. It ruins the whole, mythology of America. And
Indeed, yeah,
we still have
it's
to deal
baffling.
with voting rights. Almost 200 years after slavery was abolished, we're still fighting for people's right to vote.
Hmm.
How long does
Which
it take us? Good grief.
would it, does it have to take another 200 years?
I
I
don't
hope
know.
not. But sometimes I feel like as if it would take another 300 years. But I hope not.
Yeah, same.
But
Mostly
it's
it's we
just
just have to kind of wait and see. I like I said, I fully expect that this will be challenged at the Supreme Court level. Um, I don't know if it'll be struck down as quickly, um, but I do know that there will be a lot of people fighting to get it struck down.
yeah, I hope so. But hey, I think we will be going in maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and I would ask my viewers to ask us questions in the comment section, or in the side chats, and we'll then take up the questions. We've covered quite a bit of ground with regards to this issue, and I would love to have another episode in of Monday News with regards to this topic. Kind of follow up on this at some
Absolutely.
point to see where we are in coming weeks or months,
hmm
and do
And I
it.
see that you've got some videos about trans rights in Romania, and
Yes.
that's particularly interesting to me because I've got a few Romanian colleagues, and I'm always really interested to kind of see how they're doing over there because they've had a very intense history since the 80s.
Yes,
So I know
yes,
that,
they, as I've spoken both on camera and in private with this Arthur,
mhm.
and he he has told me all kinds. It it's really really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if you find someone who's old enough to remember the revolution, they're going to tell you some really, really incredible stories. I had
Do
a
you mean
buddy.
the fall of Ceausescu and
Yeah,
Ceausescu's and okay.
uh-huh. Yeah. I had a friend who lived through that. He was in the mountains when the revolution broke out, and when they came back from their trip, everything was going crazy. He was like, "What's happening?"
Yeah.
It was really
Yeah,
interesting.
actually, I'd love to follow up on this subject,
Mhm.
and then if you could get me get me in touch with these Romanian people,
Yeah, I need to find his
in a way or
contact information.
another, because I'd love to go for an episode 3. Actually, I've had two episodes with Arthur,
Mm,
which is just recently, uh, 2 months or so ago, and last fall, I think it was last September, that I had
mhm.
an episode 1 with Arthur. Uh,
Man, I rag on American politics a lot, and it deserves it. But I gotta tell you, there's some crazy shit happening in Romanian politics where a few years ago they passed a law that didn't ban bribing officials. It just put a limit on how much you could bribe them. It was like, guys, what?
you can bribe, but you just gotta watch out how
Yeah,
much.
you can't give this much.
Yeah.
It was
I
like, God.
had the LGBT plus stuff in Finland and Romania. I had it
Mhm.
in with Arthur. I had it in March 6th, so
Wow.
just a few weeks, 2 or 3
Okay.
weeks ago. And then I had stuff within last October.
I need to go find my friend's name is Mihai. I need to find his most recent contact information because I'm sure that he wouldn't
Okay,
mind.
yeah, I'll provide you with the links
Okay.
after we're offline.
But yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on Alabama to kind of see what crazy dumb shit they're gonna do next. I mean, they
Yeah,
elected a former football coach to be their senator, so that's the kind of people you're dealing with.
yeah. I hope this has, for my viewers, we have 3 watching on YouTube, and apparently 1 watching on either Facebook or Twitch.
Oh, nice.
So there's 4 watching in total at
I've got some
at the
friends that
moment.
normally would be watching this stream, but they're in another stream themselves, so they'll
Ah,
probably catch
okay.
up with it after.
So perhaps you can give me a little bump
Oh yeah.
to that direction. But hey, lovelings. Apparently there aren't any questions right now. If you have questions, please write them in the comment section below, and we will be going from now. We've been 1 hour and just under 10 minutes. And until next time.